Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Logical Nonsense Podcast. Today we've got Dodge Matthews and a guest we haven't seen in over 3 years, Seth O'Brien, back on the podcast. We're going to be talking some NBA free agency. Some craziness has already happened. Later in the pod, when these boys hop off, I will be giving some album reviews. We know Dodge doesn't listen to no Vince Staples. All about that Kenny Chesney, baby. So let's
Yup.
get into NBA free agency reactions. The first one I want to start off with is Mikal Bridges to the Knicks. Big move here. I think it's a very smart move. But let's start with our special guest we haven't seen in so long. Seth, what do you think about Mikal Bridges to the Knicks?
I think they gave up a ton for him. I mean, we talked about it on the car ride home. Is just what was it, 3, 4, 5 first-round picks? They're giving up the future for this guy, so he better have it in him. We'll see. When KD gets traded, I better see 10 first rounds if Mikal gets 4 or 5. So
Yeah.
I don't love it, but I love the player.
It's too much. They gave up too much. Bridges is a decent player. So he's in his prime. But he only got a few more years of his prime left. I just I'm not a huge fan of the move just because of what you lost. I'm not sure that this moves the Knicks up into the realm of the Celtics and we'll see the Sixers, right? So I don't think it's enough. Do you guys think it's enough? Do you guys think they're making the finals after this?
I think they improve. Mikal Bridges is a really good piece. He showed that he can be a number one, but we've also seen him be the number 2 or 3 guy on the Suns. He played with Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, and was a key guy there. So I think it's a really good move. I think he fits really well into their scheme. Obviously, Villanova guy. It goes way back. They know each other. They're doing something over there. I don't know if Nova's the school that I would have guessed to do it, but apparently Villanova's the school. I mean, that they had a great team. They obviously won the ship, and I get that. I don't know. I don't know if they're I don't think they're a finals team, but 2-3 years maybe. If the Celtics fall apart somehow,
No.
maybe. At some point, the Celtics cap is going to hurt them. At some point,
Yeah,
and then they're going to have to get rid of guys.
But that's why they have Hauser and Pritchard, and I'm not worried, dog.
No, but I agree. I think it's too much. We've got here. I was going to share my screen real quick. 4 first-round picks, unprotected pick swap in 2028. Top 4 protected first round from the Bucks, and a second round in 2025. Absolutely insane what they gave up for Mikal Bridges. And to your point, do I like the move? Yes, but I also think it is a little too much. Let me get this banner off of here real quick. It's way too much. I mean, whenever you see 7, 8 things listed in a trade on one side, you can just pretty much automatically assume that one side won. and I think the Nets won here. You think about the Nets and how much picks they have, like they're going to be like the Thunder are right now, right? Because they got rid of Harden, they got rid of KD, they got rid of Kyrie. They got a lot of picks back for those. So pretty soon here, the Nets are going to be hopefully pretty solid if they have some good drafts because they have a shit ton of picks. But yeah, I don't know if this is the key piece. What do you think, Seth?
Well, you got to look at that structure, like you said, that system. Tom Thibodeau loves to run players 48 minutes. What is Mikal Bridges really good at? Playing 48 minutes,
True.
82 games.
He does play 82 games a year. He does play 82.
He'll run him into the ground. I mean, he'll be a day one starting guy. I think it does get him a level up. I don't think it gets him to that championship level that the Celtics are at just yet. But I think it's a good stepstone for them. They draft, 1 or 2 guys with the second round picks, I guess they have now. and maybe they pick up another guy in free agency. And it's something that we'll just have to play and see. And, it's a bet towards now. And the Nets, I don't know. I guess they're just reliving the Celtics Big 3 trade the other way now. So Hopefully
Yeah.
it works out in their favor.
But this is the
Works out
big
in
one. You see,
Yeah, the
like
big one.
it doesn't. No,
It's definitely not worth Mikal, but we'll see.
no.
Well, the Knicks also re-signed OG Anunoby, and I know that there was some talks in our chat where I'm like, does anybody realize right now that this man is making a little bit less than Patrick Mahomes? Little insane to me. I mean, I understand that the cap salary went up or something like that, where players are just making more in general, and you'll see that based off some of the deals that have been made this free agency. But it's still a little fucking crazy. Because, like, OG Anunoby, while I like him, is he as good of an athlete? Is he contributing as much to the Knicks as Patrick Mahomes is to the Chiefs? I don't think so. Not quite. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like OG Anunoby. I thought it was a good re-signing. Just the money is so much different in the NBA compared to the NFL. I think that was a better move for the Knicks than the Mikal Bridges. Like, if I'm being honest.
Well, they didn't give up anything for it.
Yeah, and they re-signed a solid player, and yeah, now it just for what they gave up.
Yeah,
it's like you need to win now to make up for it.
Yeah,
and they're not good enough. With Bridges doesn't make up the gap to win next season.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the Knicks are going to be competitive. Like, they made a run last year. They ran out of gas because they got too many guys injured.
That's
so
true.
I understand why they're trying to make another run. Like, they could easily make the conference finals. They could easily make another run, in my opinion.
They could, but it's not a finals winning team.
Yeah.
I mean, OG, he's a good player, and it's just, as Dodge said, the salary cap's different. You got the luxury tax in the NBA. I mean, you got owners throwing money. It's getting toward the realm of baseball almost, where, you know, players getting paid $80 million a year, $90 million a year for not even being the best player on the team, which is insane to me. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is making $52 million a year, I think was the last.
I looked it up the other day. It's like 44.
It's not 44 for the.
It's like guaranteed, yeah.
That's
44
the
guaranteed.
Quarterback of the NFL right now. That there's no one better than him, and that's all he's getting paid. I mean, the amount of money he's bringing to the league versus OG is uncomparably different.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's worth that kind of money. I get your bag, I guess. If I ever have a son, he's, you know, hopefully fortunately tall enough to be in the NBA or baseball or football.
Where are we going here? What is happening?
Look, I'm telling you, the money's in
now?
baseball and basketball. Don't play football. You're gonna hurt your body. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Go to the other ones.
I think we have to mention his height now. We have to mention his height.
Right, let me sit up straight real quick. Look at this. Look at this. Everyone watching at home.
Gosh. All right. Well, let's go to our next player to talk about. Chris Paul. Interesting case here. He goes to the Spurs. The Spurs, obviously, I think on their roster, a big missing hole in their team is some veteran experience. Chris Paul obviously did not have the best of years last year, and we've seen him kind of slow the brakes a little bit in his career. He's still a valuable player in terms of just the pure knowledge he has as a leader and developing younger guys. Yeah, what do you guys think of this deal?
Well, I just looked it up. He's 39 years old. I did not know he was LeBron's age. I thought he was a little bit younger. I thought he was 35.
It's a 1 year. I think it's like 1 year, $11 million. It's really not much.
It's not
for
much.
Chris Paul.
No, definitely not for Chris Paul. I mean, you talk about him slowing down at that age. He kind of have to. He shot very well. I don't think it was a role of shooting a whole lot, taking a lot of the ball up the court, getting it to the players that need to be. So I like it for the Spurs and Coach Pop to get that kind of veteran presence, get that teaching moment, because, I mean, Wemby, it's a whole new league that he's playing in. I mean, he has 1 year of playing in the NBA. Yeah. It's totally different from Europe basketball, and getting a guy like that on the team will be super helpful, not just for this next year, but for the next 5, 6, 7 years of Wemby's career. Yeah. I think they would have probably rather have gotten a more talented point guard. Yeah. I know there was talks about Trae Young, but I think Chris Paul for the moment's a huge mentor, like the best mentor you can get in the league besides maybe LeBron James, and so that'll be huge. I don't think you get a star, but you get a mentor.
Yeah, I'd go so far to say that Trae Young doesn't fit on the Spurs. Like, it's not a good matchup. in my opinion. Trae Young's, he likes to have the ball. He likes to shoot, put up a lot of shots. And if the Spurs are going to build around Wemby, it doesn't make sense to bring in Trae Young, if I'm being honest. Yeah. I actually, I think it's a solid move for Chris Paul and the Spurs. Hopefully he can have maybe a little bit of a revitalization here. I think it's possible. And, hopefully Wemby can continue to develop. The question is this like Chris Paul's last dance? Like, is this his last season?
I would think so. Looking at his stats last year, 58 games, yet he averaged 9.2 points, 6.8 assists, and 1.3 turnovers, 1.2 steals. He did shoot 44% from the floor, 37 from 3.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's not. It's not what we're used to seeing from him, but like we've been saying, he's still a good leader. I think he still brings value to the team, but not for much longer.
It might be a good way to end his career. I think he'll be a bigger piece of this team than he was the Warriors. So I wouldn't be surprised if his numbers actually rise. And he's kept those same efficiencies of 44 and 37 for the past 2 seasons. While not being that number 1 guy or number 2 or number 3 even. So
it's interesting because I remember when he went to the Warriors and people were like making this huge deal about it, like it was like this blockbuster move, and I was like, he's just not the same player that he used to be. Like I understand like why people are excited, but like this is not 2006 Chris Paul. Like we are not seeing prime Chris Paul. Like let's just calm down a little bit here.
This is your guy too,
I know. I'm trashing on my guy, but like me saying this, like he's like last year, I was like, this is not that big of a move. Like let's just calm down here.
Yeah.
No, I hope he finishes well. I hope he becomes a mentor and finishes well. I hope this is his last season. Paul George to the 76ers, probably one of the biggest moves on the market. Wanted to save this one. I knew this would be a little bit longer of a discussion. Does this make the Philadelphia 76ers a championship team?
I think it does. So I disagree with Seth.
Okay.
I think it definitely puts them in the realm of championship material. Can they beat the Celtics? Yeah, I think they could with Paul George. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think they're better than the Celtics. I think the Celtics come into next season the favorites again, just because, their roster will be the same. And to be honest, I think they're just going to get better. I think their youth is just going to continue to get better. Horford does Horford things. A father time hasn't came for him yet. So could the Sixers do it? Yeah, I think they could, especially with Paul George. Previous to Paul George, I don't think that they could. So this is a great move for them. It means that we're here for the here and now. And yeah, I think he works well too. I think it'll work well. Much better than like when Harden was on the Sixers.
Yeah, or Tobias Harris. Seth.
I think it's just a systematic issue with the Sixers and Paul George. You've seen Paul George go to how many super teams now and fail completely for whatever X reasons. The 76ers had super teams and fail for whatever X reasons. It's just in their blood. You got winning culture teams in the NBA. You got the Bucks, who are winning culture. You got the Heat winning culture.
I was gonna say, if you say the fucking Heat, I'm gonna punch the screen, man.
The Heat all winning culture.
Get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here. There's certain teams that you see, even without star talent, make the run for the championship year in, year out. And the 76ers have star talent. They just don't make the run. What was the deepest they've gone into the playoffs in the last 4 or 5 years? Maybe a conference championship, if I remember right. I think Paul George is a great player. I agree with that. He's gonna fit in really well. I just don't think it's gonna work out in their favor of looking at a championship this next year. I think you're looking at a conference run, and then you get eliminated just like they do every playoffs.
Was the last time they made it to the conference finals?
2001.
What?
I'm telling
That's-
you, they're not a playoff team.
Conference. They've made the conference semis the last 3 years. They lost to the Celtics, the Heat, and then the Hawks.
They lose
The
to the
Hawks is
Hawks.
awful.
That doesn't seem right. The Hawks were in the conference finals. Fucking
What,
win,
was this
bro.
the bubble year or what?
It must have been bubble year. It
was bubble year, actually. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. 2020, 21. Hawks playoff history. Now this is getting me.
Trey Young, John Collins.
Yeah, they made a conference finals against the Bucks. No wonder why the Bucks won that year. All right.
No man.
All right.
Anyway,
wow. Yeah, that was a rabbit hole. Anyways, going back to Paul George and championship team, I like the fit. I actually do like the fit. You look at 76ers, what they needed. They didn't really have a wing that could score. Tobias Harris was trash. I'm sorry. He just was overrated. He could score maybe once out of every 11 nights, but he wasn't consistent. He didn't bring any sort of firepower. I didn't love the fit. I thought he was kind of this slower wing. I didn't like. I didn't think the fit was there. James Harden, I also didn't think fit there. Wanted the ball too much. He's James Harden. I don't know what else to say. I've never been a big fan of James Harden because I think he's a selfish player. Yes, he gets up and assists, but it's just stat padding. No, I'm just kidding. All right. But no, I do love Paul George because I think he brings another element to this team of scoring, another threat to this team, a serious threat. Now you have Maxey up top, Paul George, and then one of the best big men in the league in Joel Embiid. I think this team is much better than they were last year. I think it's a huge upgrade. And then they go out and they get Andre Drummond too to help Joel Embiid's minutes. If he gets tired, that's a good guy to have on your bench. Or if you want to put him in and play big. I think what they did in the offseason was good. I think a lot of people were worried because the Knicks were making moves and the Sixers weren't doing shit. Then the Sixers came kind of out of the woodworks. Another guy who they added, who I love in the draft, which we'll talk about a little later, Jared McCain. I think he's going to be another shooting threat for this team. I think the Sixers got a lot better. I don't think they're going to be able to beat the Celtics, though. I think where the Celtics will see issues, if they do, is the West. We can get into that a little later, but I think teams like the Nuggets, teams like the Timberwolves, teams like possibly the Thunder could all give them some trouble. And maybe the Mavs. I don't know about the Mavs. I mean, we saw how they handled. I don't know if Klay. We'll get to Klay in a second, but yeah. One other question I want to ask you guys with the Paul George. Paul George. Let's do a little rewind. Paul George gets traded from the Thunder to the Clippers. That may go down as one of the biggest failed trades of all time, and here's why. Thunder get a shit ton of picks back. And SGA. One of those picks was Jalen Williams and some other guys. They also got SGA, who is the star of their team and the MVP runner. Obviously, they always put this in there. Nobody thought SGA was going to be what he is today. But considering that it didn't work out with the Clippers, they never got a ring. They never truly got close to it, if we're being honest. They didn't even make a conference finals. You want to talk about teams that didn't make a conference final. Clippers never made it. Is this the worst trade in the last 10 years?
To be determined. Because
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of these trades now where there's one player going to another team for a lot of picks. And, we'll just have to see, I think, in the future what happens. But
no, I'm saying for the Clippers and Thunder.
No, I know.
Okay.
But I think there could be worse ones that have happened more recently.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Bridges could be one of them. Bridges could be
Yeah.
worse.
Okay.
But there's other ones other than Bridges too that could be worse. But I mean, it ended up pretty bad. But I have to say, the Clippers were not a bad team. The biggest problem that they had was that
Kawhi didn't want to play.
Kawhi, you can't put your money in the bank for Kawhi. You just can't.
Not anymore.
No.
Used to.
Raptors.
Spurs, Raptors.
That's it. That's it.
He said,
So,
I got my 2 Finals MVPs. I'm out.
Yeah.
I ain't playing again. Put me in the Hall of Fame.
I do think that this makes the Sixers an absolutely dynamic, athletic team.
Yeah.
And he's just way better than Tobias Harris. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Like in every aspect of the game, he's better.
Yeah.
So.
Was there tampering?
You know, Joel Embiid's always in there. He's on Twitter. He's a scout for real.
Do you think he'll get fined?
He don't care. He gets paid millions of dollars. He'll take the tampering charge.
Well,
Also,
sometimes they get.
Sometimes they lose draft picks. Yeah, sometimes you lose draft.
Sometimes
picks.
they'll take draft picks.
I mean,
we'll see. All right, let's go to a Wazoo native. Klay Thompson signs a deal with the Dallas Mavericks. First, let's start with, do you think this was the right move for the Dallas Mavericks?
It depends on what Klay they're getting. Honestly, I mean, if Klay comes in there with some heat, some fire, some energy, I don't think he's going to be putting up the numbers that he did, 4 or 5 years ago, even 3 years ago on the Warriors, especially just with the core already there with Kyrie and Luka. He's not going to get the ball as much. He's not the 2-man anymore. He's the third option. But I think he can give you a solid 15, 17, 18 points a night, spread the floor a little bit, keep people, away from the rim, so Kyrie can, drive down and do his stuff. How much is he getting paid? I think it was like 20 mil, 30 mil. I think value-wise, pretty good. Championship.
3 year, 50 mil. 3 year, 50 mil.
That's
great
17.5.
value.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a guy that's won 4 championships. He knows what he's doing. I think he'll be fine. I don't think it's the greatest thing they'll ever do in the history of the Mavs, but it's definitely a good pickup for this next year.
I think this fills what the Mavs needed the most in the finals, which they needed 3-point shooters that could knock it down when Kyrie and Luka were being locked up. And they didn't have that. And to be honest, they had Hardaway. They just didn't play him for like a few games.
He also just didn't play that great, too.
Yeah, that's true. And the other thing is Kyrie didn't play that great.
No.
Kyrie
they all had bad games.
Yeah.
One time or another.
I would say Luka probably was the most consistent. Yeah. I don't know if Luka ever had what I would consider a bad game. But
not a bad game, but that game 5, he was forcing up shots. He didn't look.
But he needed to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know.
He needed to.
But me and Caden talked about this last podcast. That was not a Luka performance. Everyone was scared of the 40-point Luka bomb where he's just freaking schooling. You know what I'm saying? And it just seemed like
it wasn't Luka magic.
It was almost like he was trying to do that, if that makes sense. He wasn't playing his game. He was just like, okay, I gotta take this 3. Okay, he almost felt like he was pressured or almost scared of the moment. I don't know if that's the right word to put it, but yeah. Anyway,
yeah, I think Klay Thompson fits really well with the team. I think he's not the one answer that's going to move the Mavericks to, for sure, winning the West even again. So they still need to do more. But Klay has always been a good 3-point shooter. I mean, even this last season, 38%. So he's always been a dead eye. His defense, ever since his injuries, not the same, right? He's not as athletic as he used to be. He's getting older. But I think he fills the biggest hole that they had in the finals. So I like the move. And 3 years, $50 million, that's pretty inexpensive in today's NBA. So
overall, I think it's a good move. Klay's obviously getting up there in age. But another thing I talked about with Caden, this team just didn't really have that much experience. They have a lot of young guys that have never been to the finals before. Really, the only guy on that team that had ever been to the finals, Kyrie. And even like we just said, like Kyrie had bad performances, right? Like I wish Kyrie would have stepped up just a little bit more in some of those games. But I mean, like I'm not trying to discredit Kyrie because I think overall his playoffs were amazing. Like the way he took on a different role for the Dallas Mavs. But getting a veteran guy who's a 4-time NBA champ, who can shoot, who can play defense, maybe, is slowing down in age, but I still like it. I think it gives them. I think it still makes them relevant, is what I'll say. I'm hoping Klay can figure out some chemistry issues. I'm hoping he gets a refresh start because it sounds like with the way things ended at Golden State, there was some tension there. Which, when you're with the same team for 12 years and you have basically the same three guys in Klay, Draymond, and Steph, there's going to be some issues. There just is. There's going to be a little bit of drama. And so, it's sad that that's the way it ended, but I'm just hoping he can hit the refresh button and not cause issues in Dallas, because we know Kyrie, he can do that too. So, speaking of which, are you guys sad to see that core end of Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green?
I have to agree with Seth. I never really liked him that much. Don't get me wrong. Watching Steph and Klay drain threes was always fun, unless it was against the Celtics, which did happen for one finals. But I've never been a Draymond fan. Yeah, so I've never been a Warriors guy. I won't be sad to see this broken up. I think mostly it's Draymond's fault with a lot of these.
Yeah.
If we want to talk about why the Warriors suck coming up, they're not going to. I don't know. They might not suck just because of Steph, but if we want to talk about the Warriors' downfall, you got to blame Draymond. So
interesting. Okay. Well, let's go to our next move. Big move, DeJounte Murray trade. Pretty interesting trade. DeJounte Murray going to Pelicans and giving up Larry Nance and some picks, I believe, too. What do we think of this trade? Pelicans going out and getting a true point guard.
I like it. I think DeJounte Murray is a good team player. I think the Pelicans, Larry Nance was not a fit that they really needed. Don't get me wrong. I think Larry Nance is a fine player. I think he's fine. But yeah, DeJounte Murray's he's an upgrade, and he's at a position that is of need. So I really like the move.
Yeah, I also really like. I just feel like he's more consistent than CJ McCollum or Brandon Ingram.
He's also much younger than
McCollum.
Yeah,
it gives them a little bit more life. So you look at this starting lineup now. You got DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson if he can stay healthy, and I believe who's their center now? Because they just got Jonas Valanciunas just signed with the Wizards. Let me look that up.
Okay. Seth,
go ahead. What do you think of this trade?
Well, they need a new starting center. That's all I can see. They got a good deal on him. 2 firsts. I mean, it's not crazy. Definitely an upgrade. Definitely, a good young player. I would be a little interested to see how they're going to run the floor, especially with that many options now with CJ, with Zion, with Brandon Ingram. This is a team that I've always wanted to see do well, especially since they got Zion. I want to see Brandon Ingram do well after his Lakers days. He does well stat-wise. I just want to see him in the playoffs, make a run for it. And I think this move will get him into the playoffs and get him, maybe past the first round. Going to come down to coaching at the end of the day. I don't think their coach is well-equipped to kind of handle that starness on that team, especially with Zion eating his way out of a job. Overall, the move's great. You gotta lay off the donuts. Stay off the donuts, Zion.
Lay off the donuts and get away from the porn stars.
Yeah, please. Look, I've been to New Orleans. I know what it's got, but Zion, you gotta stay away.
You guys are dirty.
Good trade. hopefully, I just hope this team can make a splash finally. If any time, it's going to be now or next year when this team gets a little bit older and Zion loses another 20 pounds.
Yeah, so they went out and they drafted a rookie from Baylor, Yves Missy, and then they also have Cody Zeller. So I think they're going to be just fine. No, they need to go get a center.
They could start Zeller.
Stop, bro. Stop.
They could.
Not.
They have four guys that are all going to take up the rock.
I get it.
The center's not going to touch the ball at all. But the problem is that for me, I think I have Murray keep control of the ball, and Ingram needs to just become the next guy, right? Like instead of Ingram control the ball, CJ being the spot up and Zion down low, I think Murray needs to be in control of the ball, find the best option. And that will be the interesting dynamic between Murray and Ingram, because Ingram's going to, in my opinion, lose the ball a lot more.
Yeah, we'll see how that dynamic works for sure. All right, let's go to our next trade. Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso. Interesting trade. I believe there was some picks involved in there too. Interesting. Giddey was one of the Thunder's young guys. Alex Caruso, more of a vet guy. He's been with the Lakers. Was a pretty good role player for the Bulls. I actually like this trade for the Thunder. The Bulls are getting rid of guys, but to pick up a young guy in a few years could be a key guy. So I actually don't mind it for both sides. I think Caruso's a great guy for the Thunder. 1-for-1 trade. We were wrong. 1-for-1. Do you still like it?
I think I like it more now. Honestly, when I thought they were picks, like it didn't make sense. But this makes sense, I guess, for both sides. Giddey, he had his moments, but I also think this is better for OKC than it is the Bulls. So, I think Caruso, even though I think he's a role player, I think he'll fit in well. I think he brings in athleticism. I mean, we know Alex Caruso, so I like it. I like it for both sides, but I like it especially for OKC.
Seth?
Yeah, I definitely think, the Bulls, I think, are betting a little bit that Giddey's going to be better just on their team. And I think they're kind of trying to rebuild a little bit. I think they see DeMar DeRozan walking away. I think this team's just looking towards the future a little bit. And Alex Caruso, a little bit of a heavier salary contract, not much trade capital. If you get Josh Giddey, you play for the future. You see what happens. It's a good pick for both teams. I think the Thunder get some well-deserved defensive talent and a hustler and someone who's not 7 foot, which will help the rest of the league.
No, I kind of already explained it earlier, but I agree. I think Giddey going to the Bulls, young guy, he has potential to do good things. We've seen glimpses of where he can be great. And then on the other side, Caruso, they just need role players. They just need more depth. And that's what they got with this. And the Thunder have really been going after depth in this offseason. And it makes sense because that's kind of what they need. So speaking of which, they also signed Isaiah Hartenstein from the Knicks. Hartenstein really proved himself in the offseason or in the postseason as a key guy for the Knicks, a key role player once Julius Randle went down. What do we think of this move for the Thunder as well?
I think he's just he's another big body, but he's an actual big-bodied center. Because I think they got Chet running center right now, which is dangerous. I think he weighs like 200, 210 pound, maybe. So definitely get a bigger guy in there just in case.
Sure, he's 2? I don't think there's a 2 there.
There's no 2 in front of that. Don't tell me I weigh as much as.
I think you guys are off. I think he's at least 2.
I hope he's 2. If I weigh as much as Chet Holmgren, there's an issue one way or the other.
207.
Good. I'm not there yet. I can get there soon, baby. I like it. I like the sign. I think paid a little too much, but I think the roster, they have that money to spend with how young the rest of the guys are. So you run it for, the length of his contract, 3 years, right? And then, at the end of it, you see if he get paid less, trade him, get rid of him, Hopefully Chet fills out a little bit more. I think it's a good bet for the future.
Hartenstein, I think we're talking about OKC adding depth. I think it continues that. I think maybe it's being a little overblown, the amount of help he will add. He could fill in, and he showed that in the playoffs that he can fill in if need be. So in that way, it's good if the Thunder want to make a deeper run. This Thunder team is a very good team. I think everyone's catching on to that now. I caught on to it late, so I'll be the first one to say that. But, this Thunder team can be dangerous. And if they keep making moves where they add players to continue that depth, maybe make the team a little bit older, a little bit more settled, they're dangerous.
Yeah. This team has great chemistry, so I'm hoping Hartenstein will fit right in. I think he will. He's a good hustler. He plays hard, plays with passion, which I really like. And I think Caruso is also a good chemistry fit guy too, right? He fits that hustle mold that the Thunder really thrive on. And what the Thunder continue to do is good. I like this Thunder team, and I think they're going to continue to mature. They just had their first run, and they're just going to continue to get better. Last one I have on here for free agency. They're kind of irrelevant now. They just fired their coach, which makes zero sense. Tobias Harris to the Pistons. Do we like the move?
Get your bag. The Piston ain't going to be doing nothing anyways. Tobias is getting his bag.
Do we like this move?
If I'm not wrong, this brings Tobias Harris back, right?
Yeah.
I don't see it being mattering at all. The Pistons stink. Harris isn't necessarily going to be a great help to them not sticking. It's almost reminiscent of this is what the Pistons do. They sign an old player who's kind of no longer in his prime and is meh. This is what the Pistons have been doing for years. They got some good years out of Blake Griffin. I'll say that. But it was only about 2-3 years, and then it was over. I don't think this is this situation either. So that this is this situation.
2 years, $52 million. Tobias financially makes sense. Pistons, I guess again you're reaching for that older player, hoping he's got 2 or 3 more years in him. Yeah, he's veteran, which I think the Pistons are a pretty young team. I'm not too well versed in my Piston knowledge. You got Cade Cunningham, who's pretty young. They got that other guy that's fresh. Don't even know his name. So hopefully
I don't even know who you're talking about.
There's another young guy.
Yeah, there's a couple young guys. There's a lot of them, bro.
There's another. I want to say is a pretty early first round draft pick. I forget his name. I just
big, small.
Amon Thompson or Sir Thompson. I mean,
maybe.
You thinking Duran?
Jaden Ivey, maybe.
I think Jaden Ivey. That's who I was thinking of.
They also signed James Wiseman. I don't know if you guys saw that, but traded. But
didn't Mo Bamba go somewhere too?
Mo Bamba went to.
We're not Mo Bamba fans in here.
Mo Bamba doesn't do shit. So.
I like Bull more than Mo Bamba.
Bull.
Look, Shaq was right. Bull could be Victor Wembanyama before Victor Wembanyama.
He could have been, but he ain't. Where's the Taco Fall when I need him?
He could be better. He could honestly be better than Wembanyama. He shoots better, but we'll see.
Last thing before we get into the draft. Do you think it was the right move to fire their coach?
I think that's he was a good coach. He coached the Suns for years. He didn't make it work for the Suns, but it doesn't mean he's a bad coach. And now you're paying him what, $10, $15, $20 million a year for the next 5 years for nothing. Financially, it doesn't make any sense at all. The team's not going to get better with him leaving. So I don't know who they're going to bring in. Hopefully some young.
Maybe Bickerstaff.
I don't even know.
That's who they brought in. They brought in the Cavs coach.
The Cavs head coach?
Yeah. No. He was recently fired by the Cavs. That's right.
Okay.
Recently fired by the Cavs. Yep.
I don't know. I'm okay with the Pistons. Pistons probably need to clean house at some point.
Yeah, but they're still paying Monty Williams a shit ton of money.
I know.
I kind of want to find out how much.
There's almost
a lot.
there's almost no right answer to the Detroit's problem right now. They should go try and do what OKC did, but they don't have the stars to do that. So
$68 million buyout for the Pistons by firing him. Go get your
Doesn't
bag
matter.
money, Williams. Go sit at
bag
home.
money.
Go eat that popcorn, boy. Go
He's about
drink
to get-
that Dr. Pepper on the couch. Go play some college football 25, baby. It's coming out. All right. Well, let's go into the draft. Enough talk about this stupid free agency shit. Let's talk about the future, or the lack thereof, I should say. Let's start with all of the Frenchmen that was drafted. I'm just going to say this. This might be a hot take. Wembanyama screwed up the fucking draft. Because before this fucking draft, nobody cared one fucking bit about France. And there was 4 Frenchmen that went in the first round. Why? Did anybody watch the tape on Alex Sarr or the Risacher or whatever his name is? Risacher, the first overall pick.
Zaccharie.
I saw
I'm not
yesterday.
saying they're like bad, but they are not 1
No.
and 2.
No. Look, the fact is that when's the last time you heard of French national basketball being like, yeah, that's the European team we need to worry about, the French national team?
Yeah, I mean,
No. I've been more afraid of freaking, what is
Spain.
it? Well, Spain,
Spain.
yes. Yeah, give me Spain. But also, like, Luka's from certain.
No, Slovenia,
No,
maybe?
Slovenia. I'm more worried about Slovenia's national team. You know, I'm more worried about, like, Giannis Greek team. You know, like, no. It's ridiculous. The French national team has never been considered like a top team. No. With European basketball, you usually hear about these guys years in advance. Luka Doncic, Giannis, I remember hearing about those guys when they were 16. You know, being like, these guys are going to be studs in the NBA. And then you watch them. You watch them and you're like, yeah, Luka's going to be an absolute stud, right? Guess what? Yeah, that's what he is. But you don't watch these guys and go, they're going to be, I don't know what they're going to be. I don't see them being stars.
Yeah, I hate to put the bus label on these two, but
possible.
We're putting a little flag on the play. There might be bus potential here. Might be a little Roma Dunze action. Victor. What? Anyway.
No, take me out on that. Take me out. I am not on that train.
There were some good picks, I believe, in this draft. I really liked Reed Sheppard to the Houston Rockets. Don't know what you guys thought about that one.
I'm gonna talk about Bronny.
Yes, we're getting there. We're getting through the first round. Some of the highlights of the first round.
We're talking about the third pick of the draft. All right. SEC freshman of the year. You know, he's got some potential. And the problem is that this draft just doesn't have a lot. I don't look at Reed Sheppard and think he's going to make an immediate impact. You know, could he have an impact similar to like Peyton Pritchard, maybe?
No, don't give him that low. He's the best shooter in this draft by far. By far. He's a great ass shooter.
You think he's gonna have more? I think Peyton Pritchard on the Rockets would be good too. What are you hating on Peyton Pritchard for?
I'm not hating on Peyton Pritchard.
I think he's gonna have a Kobe White on the Bulls kind of play. He's gonna start. He's gonna shoot the three. He's not gonna play real well defensively. He's gonna have some hiccups, but I think he's gonna be a solid player for them for the next few years. Definitely. He's a bit undersized. He's 6'4", 180. So
6'2".
He's 6'2".
He's 6'2".
Hopefully Chris Paul esque.
He'll be fine. He's a shooter. He'll be fine.
Look, I don't want to disrespect his shooting. He is an absolute shooter. You know, knockdown. I think Pritchard. Maybe this is my Celtics bias. I think Pritchard's kind of knocked down too. But you know,
Okay.
I don't think he's gonna develop into like Steph or Klay. Like, you see my point? Like,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I don't
Okay,
see
we're
that.
gonna do this because this is gonna take too long if I go through every pick. So,
Yeah, don't do that.
what is your favorite pick from the first round? I can go first while you guys think about it.
I
My
already know
favorite
what you're gonna say.
what?
Klingan.
No, I'm actually
Oh,
going with
whoa.
I'm going Dalton Knecht to the Lakers. I think he's
Ooh.
exactly what the Lakers need. I hate the Lakers. I shouldn't be saying this, but I think it was the best pick. The fact that he dropped to 17, people are afraid of him being 23. They're afraid that he's going to get injured. I think if I put Sheppard as the number 1 shooter, Dalton Knecht is right at number 2 for me because I think Knecht is a killer. We watched him in March Madness. He's that guy. I'm sorry. He just is. And I think people are going to regret watching him fall. I think he's going to have an immediate impact on the Lakers and be a really, really good role player for them. I like Dalton Knecht. That's my biggest win from the first round.
Go ahead, Seth.
Celtics. I like Dalton Knecht too. That was gonna be my pick. You put him on the floor with LeBron, he's gonna get the spots. He's gonna get the shots that he needs to really flourish in that offense. And you're looking at a Lakers starting 5 of LeBron, Austin Reeves, Anthony Davis, Knecht. I don't know who the third one is.
D'Angelo Russell.
D'Lo? That's a shooting squad. I think that's a pretty solid starting.
You think Knecht's starting?
I think Knecht is starting. I think he will start. Who's starting over him on the Lakers team?
I think a veteran will start over him. I think he's going to lead the backups. That's
I think you're giving him a little too hate. I not as much. I don't love him as much as Hunter does. I don't think he's going to be, coming in shooting 16 points a game and being all that. But I definitely think he spreads the floor, and he is what the Lakers need. And he's a young guy. Bronny ain't starting over him, so.
No. All right, I'll go with mine then. And I Knecht was on my list for ones that I'd want to talk about. So was the Celtics, Schreierman. But I thought you were going to go Klingan because, I like the move. He's an athletic player, 7'7" wingspan. We watched him in March Madness. This is a guy who plays, he plays good basketball. I think with the Trailblazers, he'll go well. And you could probably put Klingan at the 4 if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
With
they got Ayton.
Yeah, with Ayton at the 5, and that's a rim blocking squad right there.
Yeah.
So I actually really like it. You could have kind of the Twin Towers effect going on.
Yeah, and they also got Rob Williams, which I forgot about. So they've got a stacked big man room. But I agree. Klingan was one of my favorites from the first round. I also really liked Jared McCain to the Sixers. Really like that move. I think there's some good moves, some people who could possibly make noise. So let's
How'd you
go
feel about
on.
Schreierman to the Celtics?
I like Schreierman. I think Schreierman fits well into the Celtics. I think he's exactly what you guys need. What's his face? Love shooter. Missoula loves shooters. Go and get another one. Add to that depth. So I like Schreierman. Let's go to the elephant in the room. Let's get to the elephant of the room.
Anton Watson to
Bronny James.
Le GM.
All right. First off, let's just get this out of the way. Did he deserve to get drafted?
No. And let me explain why. It's because he didn't start in college. Look, Bronny, I'm not going to say that he doesn't have potential to be in the NBA. He has potential to be in the NBA and play in the NBA. But he didn't start in college.
Yeah.
And I get it. He came back from, what was it, like a heart attack or something to do with his heart.
Yeah.
Mad respect coming back out there.
I think,
cardiac, way to come back on the court, get back ready for the season. He should be super proud of that. But your freshman year didn't show that you're ready for the NBA. And I think that's the difference. Is Bronny ready for the NBA? Probably not. Could he be in a couple of years? He could be.
Yeah.
La GM at work, baby. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm just surprised this didn't happen with like Jordan's kids, because I remember
Jordan kids were never even good though.
they didn't even. I think one went to UCF and barely played. There's a lot of teams that looked at it and didn't really like. They realized that they're not good. So I think there's a little bit more at hand in terms of Bronny getting pulled because of LeBron. I mean, now that LeBron's opted out and is looking to sign a lower contract to get some help. I mean, there's a lot of things at play. Does he deserve to be drafted? I don't think so, not yet. I think he'll play on the G League. I don't think he'll make the final lineup, the next 15. I think he plays all G League this year, and he should for his future. He needs to.
I think he should. I don't think he will. I don't think he will. I think he's going to be on the roster. I think he's making that team. But I would say obviously I would have had him go back to college at USC for more years. So obviously if he plays the G League, I think that's better for him. But I think he's making the roster. So
yeah, you guys have said it all. Bronny James did not deserve to be drafted when he averaged 4.8 points per game. Can't even get to 5. Sorry. You're not the number 1 option. You're not the number 2 option. You're not the number 3 option. Hell, you're not even number 4 option. Bronny, how do you expect to be on an NBA team? And it's funny because he decided his own comparisons because he knew he wasn't good enough. Oh, I'll be a Drew Holiday. Will you? Was your defense that locked down at USC?
No, not Drew Holiday lockdown. No.
What?
Pat Bev?
No.
Oh,
Pat Bev's lockdown D. Now offensively, I think
maybe Trey Young D. Sorry.
Is that non-existent?
That's dirty. That is absolutely dirty.
No, he is a good defender. Like, I'm not like trying to discredit him all the way, but I just think he needed another year.
At least, yeah.
A lot of people got mad at me because I made a joke on Instagram. I had to delete the comment because people were coming from my head. I forgot how much people suck LeBron's dick, and with LeBron's dick comes his cum, which with his cum comes Bronny James. So, it just I forgot about that. And my comment was when he chose the number 9. Look, he picked the number of minutes. He picked the number of minutes that he'll play in the G League. Good for him. People were coming at me, man. A lot of people were like, hey, at least you got drafted. Did you get drafted? No, neither did you. So why are you in the comment section? Like, come on, get out of here. Another guy got super mad at me, called me a little corny podcast. Bet you'll listen to this. I'll fucking at you right now. Come on now. But no, I mean, I'm sorry. He's not NBA talent. Another guy was saying Russell Westbrook was averaging, I think it was around the same amount his freshman year. And I said, what did Russell Westbrook do? He went back for another year, and he was the best player on that team. Go do that. Then I can believe in you. But it's just hard to believe in a player when you haven't really seen that potential. Everyone's so, enamored by his...
he doesn't have the potential?
Just hear me out for a second. Let me get there. Everyone's so enamored by his draft combine. Yeah, let me cook. Everyone's so enamored by his draft combine. It's like, yeah, he is athletic. Like, that's what's so interesting about Bronny James, right? Like, going through high school, we've seen him play against the best competition at the high school level. We didn't see it at the college level. We needed another year to see that. So where I did see potential, Dodge, to answer your question, high school. I didn't see that in college. What I saw in college was an athletic guard who needed a lot of maturing to do before he could ever consider the draft. Because there were highlight plays that he made, but there wasn't a game where I was like, wow, this guy's got it.
I'll agree with that. I think, there was not a complete game in college where I saw Bronny and was like, yeah, he's ready for the NBA, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, he's athletic.
Yeah.
He plays solid defense.
Yep.
And his draft combine showed that at least inconsistently he can find his shot at the 3-point range.
Yeah.
Could he develop to a 3-and-D player in the next 3 to 4 seasons? Yeah. I think Bronny could be a 3-and-D guy. Not ready for it now.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see him at college again. But I think maybe I have a little more faith that he has potential to be
So do you think
a
he's
role
going to work
player.
out?
What do you mean? Do I think he's a
gonna
bud? Oh.
Speak your mind, son. Speak your mind.
I haven't decided. I honestly haven't decided
Dodge has
whether
not wrote him off.
Yeah.
Dodge has not wrote him off.
I think it's going to work out with like him and his dad winning a ship?
No.
I don't think that's going to
Lakers aren't good enough.
No.
Sorry. They're not.
Bron's
Not as of July 2nd, 2024.
not
They're
good
not
enough.
good enough.
But I mean, like, Bron isn't even I remember watching Bron this playoffs, and I was like, when is the takeover going to happen?
Yeah.
When is the LeBron like
He
fourth
tried.
quarter dominance?
Jamal Murray showed up.
Because the Lakers against the Nuggets, remember the Lakers?
Yeah.
The Lakers were beating them at halftime for a majority of the games.
I was gonna say for like games 1, game 2, game 4, like
Yeah. Like if they just finished the games, and I was waiting for like LeBron to say like almost pull out like a Miami Heat kind of days, and it never came. So
Yeah.
I think Bron might be getting too old to do that.
Yeah. Yep. The Lakers, aka Mike Malone's bitch. I see what you're saying about Bron. I think there's potential he works out, but here's what I'll say.
Would you take the bet that he doesn't?
I don't think he's ever going to be an all-star. Like, I don't think his ceiling's an all-star.
I don't think so either.
I think the best he'll ever be is like a bench role player. He might start, but I think the best I can ever see Bronny is like a starter role player.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that assessment 100%.
Any other picks you want to talk about? I feel like you had one. Anton Watson. Did you want to talk about him?
Anton? Yeah, we can talk about him, I guess, for a little bit.
Anton, if you're listening, sir, I used to play AAU basketball against you. We used to share the same gym. We went to the same middle school. We had a class together. Sir, it's been an honor to be in your presence. My great king.
Thank you for joining the Celtics.
I hope you remember me one day when you're dunking on Bronny and throw your nutsack in his face.
So Hunter's a Celtics fan now, right?
I don't.
We'll bring you in.
I don't really cheer for NBA teams. The
the
only person I cheered for was Chris Paul. Really.
This can be a Celtics podcast.
It can be a Celtics podcast.
You know what? when this becomes logical nonsense network forecasting, I'll give you a Celtics pod. How about that?
A whole Celtics pod, history, future, and now, baby.
Your guys' sole job is to cover the Celtics, and I'll be like Dave Portnoy. I'll get after you guys if you're not.
I'm about to be like Big Cat. I'll be drunk on the job, baby.
I mean, if I'm legitimately going to talk about Anton, I think it's a great fit. I think the Celtics had a great draft.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for everyone else because the Celtics, who had the best team and the most deep team, continued to get more deep. What are they doing? I mean, yeah, like Anton, he plays really solid defense. He's a really physical player. Maybe needs to develop the shot a little bit, but Brad Stevens was honestly kind of saying that he wants to shoot it more. He thinks that he has it already. So I think Anton, he's like 6'8", right?
Yeah.
He's 6'6".
6'8".
He might
He's
he might
6'8", buddy.
be.
Trust me.
I don't know why, but I feel like he might be slightly undersized. If I'm being honest,
Yeah,
for the 4.
yeah, ish.
But
For a 4, yeah. But he's too slow for a 3. So I see what you're
yeah,
saying. Yeah.
no, he's a 4. He's a 4 in my opinion. He just needs to develop that 3-point shot, and then if he can knock down 30, well, more than 30, 35% of his threes in the NBA, the Celtics can get rid of some players, and we'll just continue it up.
Yeah.
I
will say this about Anton too. Like, that's impressive to me about him. Looking at how much he improved at Gonzaga from his freshman year to his senior year, really took on a leadership role in senior year. Like, it's pretty cool to watch, and he's been a part of successful programs and knows how to operate within them. So I think he's a gamer. He's gonna find a way to contribute for this team.
I would have liked to see a center get drafted by the Celtics, but right now we got the only
Fuck
true
Anton.
the only true center we got right now is Luke Cornett on the roster. So
you got Al Horford.
Is he
Porzingis?
Is he a true center? He's listed. They're both listed.
Porzingis?
They're both listed as power forwards.
Porzingis is a center, dog.
Not listed as it. That's all
Don't
I'm
care.
saying.
Don't care.
We'll win another chip.
Celtics are fine. I was gonna say Celtics are fine.
If we win the chip this year, I'll get a tattoo of it.
Of Anton? Perfect.
Nope. I'll get AW. I'll just say it's the root beer. A&W.
All right. Well, boys, if that's it, I appreciate you coming on. It was fun talking free agency and the draft. Seth, thanks for coming out of the hibernation.
It's hard to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us on, Hunter.
Absolutely.
I'll see you.
All right. Now for the last part of the podcast, I will be doing 2 album reviews. I haven't been doing as many album reviews as I would have liked this year on this podcast. So if there's an album you'd like me to review, make sure to leave a comment. I know I'm also missing the Don Toliver album, as well as Knowledge album, and some few others. So if there's an album that you would like me to review, make sure to leave a comment on which one, and I will definitely get to it. I've listened to these albums. It's just a matter of time of taking the time to actually put my review glasses on and getting it done. So first, let's start with Dark Times by Vince Staples. A very interesting listen. I really enjoyed this album. Listening to it, I've always been a Vince Staples fan. I think he is one of the most underrated and underappreciated artists that we have in hip hop currently. And so I wanted to go through this album one by one. Starting first with Close Your Eyes and Swing. Obviously, just an intro sound to it kind of sets the tone that this is going to be a darker album, kind of like what the title says, Dark Times. Shorter album, 13 songs, 35 minutes, which I actually don't mind. I, am of the preference that, don't waste your breath. And I don't think Vince Staples really did on this album. So good for him. Starting with Black and Blue, probably the best song on the album. One of my favorite. It's this nice, smooth, relaxed intro song. Vince's storytelling on this and on many others, it's so good. It's so A+. It's elite. The tone is perfect for the mood setting, and it pairs really nicely with this super catchy and soulful chorus. So black and blue. It's so nice. It's a switch up from what we're used to hearing with Vince Staples and his choruses. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was probably one of my favorite songs of the year. It's something that's been on repeat for me. And, I think it really gives that summer late night drive type of feel. So really, really great song to start the album. Then we go into Government Cheese, more of a dark lyrical track, and it gives a super interesting perspective on a eerie beat. This is definitely for me at least like a concept track. I think this is building into his concept of talking about trauma of his childhood and his upbringing. And so I think it's a needed song, but it's definitely an interesting experience to listen to. And I also like that. Usually, I don't like the synths. This one, I don't mind it. I don't think it's brought in a weird or distracting way. I think it actually adds to the tone of the song. The synth kind of brings this nice tension to the song, which is needed for this type of tone. Then we go into children's song. The guitar chords, I think, bring a nice, almost funky element to the song, and to the production. And I think it pairs really well with Vince's deeper tones, and voice fluctuations. It's not Vince's best rap performance on this album, but I still think it's still a solid song. I think it kind of at times maybe lingers from relaxed, laid back to almost boring. I know some people really enjoy this song, but I think it's the chorus that is kind of too repetitive in this song for me. That makes me not enjoy it as much as some of the other tracks on this. It's not a bad song. Um, it's an okay song for me. It's just kind of a filler song for me at least. Shame on the Devil, very slow, intimate beat, and it's paired with very vulnerable lyrics from Vince Staples. I think it has this very nice, deep voice chorus, almost like distorted, which is a cool element. I know some people really enjoy this song. I think it's an interesting track for sure. It's not something I would add to my playlist. I think it adds. I think it's an important song for the development of the concept again in this album, which I think Vince does a great job of being consistent in that concept, continuously going to his past, traumatic experiences, his upbringing, the troubles within many different elements of his life, and even to present day, which is interesting. So I really give props to him on that. But I definitely could see this growing on me, as I know this has already grown on me as sort of that emotional, vulnerable song. So as I continue to revisit this song, this might be something that I do add to maybe one of my more emotional playlists. So going to Etufe, I really enjoy this song. I think this is again one of the better songs on the album. I love the echoed effect on the chorus. I love the many different flows, the many different fluctuations and melodies that Vince shows on this. I think this is a very versatile song in the way that Vince presents himself. It's still really great lyrically. So I think this is just an A plus song on all levels, and I truly truly enjoy it. Liars, it's obviously a skit to the album, and I think it's kind of an interesting one. It's kind of puts you into this cinematic experience, that leads you into Radio, which is an underrated song, certainly, or leads you into Justin, which is a very simplistic song. It's not much of a jam or an even, I would say, vibe song. The choppy, almost one-dimensional flow on this, I wasn't a huge fan of. I think there's better flows from Vince Staples on this album that we hear, but I do enjoy the storytelling that he brings onto this track. I think he's just a great rapper who can paint pictures, and he does it again on this one. I think this is a track that you could never pick out, personally, at least. This isn't a single for me. I think this is a track that needs to be on an album, and I'm glad it is on an album because it just can't stand alone. It needs the support of the other tracks. So I do think the ending is super effective. I will say that with the women lie a lot, the repetitiveness of that. I think it kind of, in weird ways, it speaks volume. It's very passionate, and it just kind of shows his mind, his state of mind at the time. You can kind of hear the emotion in his voice when he says it, and I think the repetitiveness of it kind of just speaks more than what's on paper. So I do think that was kind of a really unique move by Vince Staples on that. Going to Radio, very interesting looped production. It creates this sense of suspense, especially with that nostalgic old cracked radio sounding. It's kind of ironic that I say radio, but that cracked radio sounding sample or twist, if you will, to the production. But it's effective. I think it creates this nice tone throughout this song and track, as I continue to say. And it's another great example of a conceptual track, and I enjoy this one as well. I think it's one of the better conceptual tracks on this. Nothing Matters. I really enjoy the vocals on this one, and I think the song brings some cool chemistry. It's cool chemistry and element um, to the song. I think it's a great example of a feature helping the song, because I think without the feature, I don't necessarily love this song as much, but I think the feature definitely helps, and I might not have this song as highly regarded. Going to Little Homies, this is again one of my favorite songs on the track. I think this is a fun summer song. It's a switch up to the rest of the tone, to the beat, but if you listen to lyrics, it's still conceptually complex. Life's hard, but I go harder. Like, he's still teaching lessons. He's still talking about things that matter in his life, and I think that is cool that he can bring some fun elements to a track that typically would be on a dark beat or darker production. So going to Freeman. This song just isn't my favorite. I think it's another good story in terms of just listening to it. But as far as a song, I felt like it fell a little short for me. So now going to our rating system, lyrics. I think there's some eye-opening lyrics on this, and some great storytelling into Vince Staples' trauma as a child. I also think he does a really great job of portraying the image of his current life stresses, his current life issues, and just the modern day state he's in and what state he's been in. I think he does a really good job of kind of showing the emotions on his sleeve, and being that vulnerable rapper. And we've continued to see him progress through that, starting off and making tracks like, that are bangers, and now it's really this. Like, this and Vince Staples and Self-Titled, I think, are two great examples, and even Ramona Park, his last one, I think they're all great examples that he's matured as a rapper, and he really wants his stuff to mean something, and we haven't really seen an album since where he hasn't had every track mean something, and I would say the same lies here too. So, for lyrics, I think, um he does a great job of reflecting and talking about that upbringing. And so for that, I think I'm gonna give him an 8.8 out of 10 for lyrics. For on point production, I think I really like the way that the tone matches the album name. It's dark. There's a lot of gloomy, eerie beats that Vince Staples selects that I think really are tone setters. And, there's not a ton of versatility within the production selection. They're all really good beats. I wouldn't say there's anything that's like crazy good. I think Black and Blue, I think Little Homies are great examples of some switch ups. Um, and even Tufe with the many different layers that song has, I think there's instances where you see the production be really, really good. Um, but it's not elite production by any means. I'm not gonna come to here to listen to a production experience. I think there's a mood experience through the production, but it's not anything that's crazy, unique, or new that we haven't heard. So I'm gonna go with production at a 7.8. Glorious Flows. I think it showed snippets of versatility in this realm, through some of the different tracks. But overall, I think he was pretty consistent. He really wanted that more monotone, deeper voice fluctuation, with more of a moderate speed to really speak the lyrics. He's a storyteller. He doesn't want to, he's not switching his flow into super super fast, because while it might sound cool, it might be different for him. It's not what he's trying to get to his listeners. He's trying to be vulnerable. He's trying to tell a story, and the best way to do that is to slow down your flow a little bit. There was a few melodies, and I think his melodies are solid. His vocals, he knows his voice. He doesn't try to do something that sounds bad. And so I think he has a great recollection of what he's capable of. So good job by him. And, overall, I think he could improve on versatility, but for now, 7.6 out of 10 on Glorious Flows. Immediate hits, I think Vince Staples, as I mentioned earlier, he's underrated. And I think he makes some really great and compelling tracks. While this album will not be getting like the Billboard attention or the radio attention that it probably deserves, I would imagine the hip hop community um, will enjoy this project. I think it's on a similar realm to Vince Staples in self-titled, and I think Vince Staples' self-titled is very highly regarded and a really really good album. So I'm gonna give this 7.4 out of 10. Not because I don't think that there's hits on this album, just because I don't think those hits are gonna get to the the everyday listener. So going to content matter, looking at this album holistically, it is one of the best to come out this year, in my opinion. I think it's conceptually, it's well thought out. I think it's lyrically sound. I think it's got really consistent production. Obviously, there's areas of growth, as I've mentioned already, but it's a really solid album. I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10 for the content matter, and that brings our average score to an 8 out of 10. Really great album. Make sure to go listen to it and let me know what you think. Now we go to our next album, which is the Boldy James Conductor Williams album. Across the tracks, starting with Terms and Conditions. Obviously, this one was a single, and he started as his intro. I think it's a cool intro. It talks about what he's learned in his time on the streets, and who are the real people who belong in the streets, who are the real ones, who are the fake ones, who's who's not really adding up. I think there's this really nice soulful trap beat, which is very common for Conductor Williams on this, to bring those soulful samples onto these tracks. And it's very easy to listen to these tracks with Boldy James's deep voice. I think the chemistry um, there is nice. I think they kind of offset one another and give it a more nostalgic, old school hip hop feel. And as an underground rapper, that's exactly what Boldy James is looking for. Going to All Madden, another soulful trap beat, which we're used to seeing from Conductor. Great performance in terms of storytelling by Boldy James in terms of rapping. I'm not sure I love the Bojack feature on this. I think it kind of turned out weird. I also think Bojack kind of just sounds like a little kid grabbed his mom's mic and started rapping. I wasn't a fan of it. I actually think Boldy James outperformed Bojack on this one. Going to Flying Trapeze Act. This feels like a classic underground rap heads song. I can appreciate this song. I think others might skip. It might find it a little too heavy or a little too hardcore. But I think the storytelling is absolutely insane on this, and it shows Boldy James's ability to paint pictures like he does on this and on the rest of the album. It's just another great one. I really enjoyed listening to this track. Going to the old switcheroo. This track almost has too much rhyming. I think it's one of those that kind of sounds like he's almost forcing bars, if that makes sense. Like this one isn't necessarily to me like the greatest. I just wasn't a huge fan of it. I think it just kind of there's the Funyuns and the onions and like there's just a lot of like that, and then I don't know. I just feel like it's very choppy. There's a lot of like abstractness to the song. Um and yeah, I know a lot of people like the old switcheroo, but I personally was not a fan. Going to Undisputed, I think another cutthroat track where you kind of see Boldy just go in and rap his ass off. He's just kind of spitting the spit, and I love this song just to hear his performance overall. It, it's nice production as well. It's a great production to tell a story on, and he does it again. So Lampshade, I enjoy the sample on this song. The vocals I think make it feel like this like hopeless romantic song, which is perfect for what Boldy James is talking about on this track. He does this very beautiful job of making a visual, telling this interesting story. I don't think it's everybody's cup of tea, but I did enjoy it. St. Juliana, Boldy James, I think, glides on this super smooth sample track. I love the chemistry between Conductor's production and Boldy James's flow on this one. I also love the way Boldy James kind of changes his voice tone and his fluctuation on this track. It's a nice mix up to what the rest of the album feels like. Going to Permission, I think the double D feature adds a super interesting element. It's kind of a higher pitch, which is way better than what the Bojack feature brought. I think this is a simplistic track, but it's a fun track. It's nothing too flashy. Then we go to Off-White Lumberjack. I think this is probably my favorite song on the album. Boldy just immediately starts spitting bars. He's got this super, super nice flow to listen to and kind of jumps in. He slows down towards the end of the song, but it still really has this nice energy to it, which is my biggest knock on Boldy James is I feel like he could show more energy throughout the album. And it's kind of his vibe, in my opinion, and a little bit of that energy was cool. I like it when we see him really, really go in and spit bars. So Stamps in the Middle, not ashamed of the final song, and I think it's perfect. It kind of just shows like he's not ashamed of being who he is and how he was brought up, and I think it's a cool intro on this super nice beat. So and then going into the ratings on this, going first with lyrics, I think Boldy is a super interesting storyteller, as I continue to say. I feel like I'm a broken record right now, but he paints pictures really well. He has a very clear theme throughout the album of kind of talking about the streets, his upbringing, some of the people who have done him wrong, him not being ashamed of his life, what's happened in his life, the people who have been a part of it, and I think he's very open and honest, and I think that's something you can come to appreciate in this album as well. Going to On Point Production, Conductor Williams, I think, is one of the best producers in the game right now. But he has a very distinct sound. I think it's a lot of boom bap, soulful trap samples. Um, and, I don't think everyone sounds great on them, but, somebody like Boldy James will sound great on it. I think J. Cole obviously sounds great on it. Like, you you obviously have some really interesting people. I really like how layered they are. I think, it's you can appreciate it. Sometimes I wonder, though, on this album, people are really not gonna like that I say this. I wonder if the production kind of outshadows Boldy James. I think sometimes it performed better than Boldy James did. Boldy James had a great performance. Not gonna say he didn't, but there were some times where I felt like he almost seemed like he didn't bring the energy as much as I would have liked, and the production outperformed, in my opinion. So, lyrics, I don't know if I said that score 8.5 out of 10. On Point Production, 8.6 out of 10. Going to Glorious Flows. I think he has a very distinct flow. I think he lacks versatility a little bit. I think this is kind of his biggest weakness. I'm not like his flow is good. I'm not saying his flow is not good. But I do think when you're looking for somebody to show that they're capable of many different flows and kind of bring that versatility while also staying true who they are. He kind of is what he is. So if you like that underground flow, he's the guy for you. But for me, I want to see the the melodic stuff. I want to see many different flows. If you're just a pure rapper too, there's different ways to show that. There's different flow switch ups, and he just didn't really show a lot of versatility, in my opinion. 6.8 out of 10 for Glorious Flows. Immediate hits. It's an underground rap. So it's not gonna get the Billboard attention. It's not meant to. But the underground community is gonna love this album. I think they already do. I've already seen a lot of rave about this album, and the hip hop community is also gonna highly regard this. So while it'll never make billboards, there's some hits that will live forever in the hip hop community. Um, I will go 7.1 out of 10, just because I do think there's hits, but for me, this is not a everyday replayable album, personally. Content matter, storytelling is elite. I think the rapping performance is elite. The production, I wouldn't say is elite, but there's certain tracks where it is elite. Um, I think the production might be slightly overrated. I think Boldy James's performance at times could be slightly overrated. As I said, I think the biggest gripe I have with him, bringing more energy, I think while his laid back feel is kind of who he is, I think there's ways to do that while also still bringing an energy or a tone. So I think overall the content's really, really solid. It's one of the best albums I've heard this year as well. Um, it's not my preferred style of hip hop, but I definitely can appreciate the underground world and what they're doing right now. And I think it's high quality. So 8.5 out of 10 for content matter for an overall score of 7.9 out of 10. Um, if you've listened this far, I appreciate you. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 1,000. And yeah, thank you.